The renovation of Friendship Park is a part of comprehensive development and restoration of Gyumri within IDEA's Armenia 2020 initiative. Global goal of the park transformation is not only to make a new public space for the Gyumri people and guests of the city, but also to create a symbol of gratitude to the countries that have supported the city rehabilitation after the devastating earthquake in 1988. The evaluation of the park is a complex project, which includes both space transformation and social cultural programming. The whole project will take several years to develop all documentation from vision to working drawings and to proceed all construction works. Now we are on the first stage, and till October 2020, we will work on conceptual ideas together with citizens. At the same time, the competition for recreational infrastructure elements design will proceed. In October 2020, we are going to present the final special and cultural program and the design project itself together with the competition results. Then the construction work will take around 2 or 3 years, but the park will be ready for visitors already in summer 2022, when the basic work will be finished. The vision of the park is based on a complex analysis on 3 key issues: planning and architecture, social-cultural, and anthropological. The goal of this webinar is to deliver the working context to the participants and to share the preliminary work result with the citizens. Because of the pandemic disease, project team is divided between Armenia and Russia. And we cannot come and meet with all of you offline right now, but we still have plans to involve citizens in the design process, because we find it very important for future users to participate and design the space with our professional supervision. Next slide, please. I will shortly remind the main information for competition participants. The official languages of the competition are English and Russian, so all materials should be submitted in English or in Russian. Focus of the competition is the recreational and public service elements in the park, and the design solution should be based on an already developed draft design of the park, which you will find in the terms of reference. The competition has 3 nominations, which we will present at the end of the webinar. And a bit about key dates. July 29th is the deadline for submission of your applications. September 21st is the deadline for filling competition proposals. And the final jury session and competition results will be in October 19th. Next. Thank you. And now let's talk about the city and park itself. Gyumri is the second largest city in Armenia, and the foundation date varies in different sources. The first mention of settlement in this place dates back to 7th, 3rd centuries before Christ. The city of Gyumri has a rich history. It changed its name and character several times and belonged to different countries. Today, I will focus only on the most important episodes of that affect the city and especially the park evolution. Historically, Gyumri was a craft settlement. During the period of Bagratid Kingdom of Armenia, the city was named Kumairi, and it was a period of growth for the whole region. Many fortresses, monasteries, educational institutions, etc. were founded. By the last quarter of 18th century, the city was invaded by Oghuz Turks and then by Persia, and many regions of modern Armenia, including Gyumri, were depopulated. After Russo-Turkish War, Gyumri became officially part of the Russian Empire and one of the most developed cities in the Transcaucasus. In that period, there was a large influx of Armenian population, as around 3,000 families migrated from the Ottoman Empire and settled in and around Gyumri. In 1837, Russian Tsar Nicholas I changed the name to the Alexandropol. After the establishment of railway station, in 1899, Alexandropol greatly grew and became the largest city in eastern Armenia and one of the most important transport hubs of the region. Following the October Revolution of 1917, the city renamed to Leninakan. Leninakan became a major industrial center in the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic. And even international airport was founded in this period. The park was founded at this period too, in the middle of 20th century. It had a regular spatial structure and typical set of functions for Soviet period. There were a lot of recreational facilities, fountains, dance floor, music place, attraction, and even shooting gallery. The 1988 I'm sorry, the 1988 Spitak earthquake has a disastrous impact on the city. Many buildings are still not recovered. Around 5,000 residents of Gyumri remain homeless. Because of this quake, the period of the last 30 years was a period of surviving and not developing for the city. Up to present, Gyumri is often associated with the city of tragic disaster. But at the same time, after the earthquake, a lot of countries started to help Armenia to rebuild the cities, and several new districts on the north part of the city were built at this period. And a new Austrian Children's Hospital was built near the park. But the park itself was reorganized for temporary social and residential function. At the beginning of 21st century, the charity fund idea started the project of evolution of the city. Friendship Park is a part of this project and will be the first green public space built in the city in the last 30 years. Last year, with support of the fund idea, 20 families who still lived in the park were moved to their new houses. Now the park's territory is an empty area, ready for new purpose, functions, and programming. Next slide, please. On this slide, you can see several photos of modern city to fill the space and environment context. The image of the city consists of the construction of the different periods: Gyumri, Alexandropol, Leninakan. The diversity of architectural styles comprises the medieval architecture, Alexandropol architecture style, and Soviet modernism. It makes Gyumri's vernacular architecture unique. And now my colleague Marina will immerse you into the socio-cultural context of Gyumri. After that, we will continue with project vision.
Thank you, Ksenia, and hello for everyone. At first, I will talk you about the research itself in a few words. After that, we will dive into the city's urban text in terms of culture and history, and about the people of Gyumri and their memories and experiences of park. Our team worked directly at Gyumri and remotely from Moscow and Yerevan. Lots of work was done online because of pandemic. But with the help of local specialists, we managed to gather the essential data. We held in-depth interviews, an online survey, and analyzed social media, all kinds of studies about the city. First of all, I want to thank you all the people who took part in the project and gave us their opinions and very, very important information. So thank you. And you can see the list of our collected data in the bottom of the slide. And now we talk about historical background in few words. First of all, I should highlight two strategies of constructing the city's history. One, more universal, when people mark the main events of the city and the world both. And the second, when more specific and more locally, when people reflect local history by their toponyms. Gyumri, Alexandropol, Leninakan, Gyumri. There is 4 layers of local history. But in actual discourse, and as it was mentioned earlier by Ksenia, history of the city can be divided into 3 main eras. The interesting thing about Gyumri is that you can still see all these 3 historical layers in the existing urban grid of the city and people's perceptions. It means some people associate themselves with Alexandropol and empire aesthetics, cultural practices, a kind of intellectual references. So another part of the locals prefer the name Leninakan and the Soviet time of prosperity, industrial culture, and so on. At the same time, younger people, including post-Soviet generation and another part of local people, are constructing the contemporary independent image of the city, which brings together the constant, traditional, and the modern creative meanings. So we can clearly see the mix of three layers in the city structure and symbols. From Alexandropol period, you can see, for example, some objects from city center or from old town and black fortress, for example. From the second layer, the clock on textile factory, which measures city life. And for example, it symbolically stopped at the tragic moment of the Spitak earthquake, symbolically and literally. So, and from post-Soviet times, the public art and modern crafts. We will return to this topic in terms of city planning structure later. Now let's continue with city symbols. Gyumri has always been and remains a bastion of culture in Armenia, with fruitful local crafts, wide range of arts, sports, and other creativeness. The idea develops on honor for the Olympic champions, honor for the artists, musicians, sculptors, and so on, honor for IT specialists and other talented people from Gyumri. And Gyumri branding a city of art, culture, and traditions, sports, and technologies. Another important idea for understanding the city and its people is the local reflection about the status of second city in Armenia as the first. According to Armenian cultural anthropologist Gayane, thank you Gayane for your very fruitful elaboration researches. I saw that you are here now. So accordingly, Galina Shiganyan, the competition between Gyumri and Yerevan is derived from the Soviet years, when the cities were getting different status and their funding and economic development depended on that. In actual discourse, this opposition between Gyumri and Yerevan combined with strong local patriotism and increased to constructing the status of Gyumri as the first city in the world, more than Tbilisi, Paris, Moscow, New York, etc. The idea develops on historical narratives, folklore, and guide texts, and also in honor for the talented people from Gyumri. As you can see on the slide, the graffiti is emphasized Gyumri as the capital of the world, and vernacular text on city wall, which declare Gyumri is the center of the world, but some countries don't like realize that. Next, we will talk about people of Gyumri. First of all, I need to say that the actual city population consists of a few K groups. You can see them above. Local citizens of various professions, tourists, Russian military, international volunteers, international workers, and so on. All that people lived in the city and used the cityscape. Now I'm going to speak about the sociocultural image of local people. The people of Gyumri have typical characteristics, either they attribute themselves or the other attribute to them. So there are some of the elements which construct the local identity from inside and outside, which also influence the organization of urban space and city life as well. The first is conservativeness. Among the modern people of Gyumri, conservativeness concern life attitudes associated with the traditional society perception on family and gender roles. This perception, together with the post-industrial or post-collapse city situation and poor functioning urban transport, created a slow and short urban pace of life with short night times. Especially the activist and public space at this time are informally limited for the local woman. The big role of a family as a clan is still actual in Gyumri. While getting acquainted with each other, the locals represent not only themselves personally, but also their family, even though for modern cities inhabited by nuclear families. This is not a characteristic feature. As Gyumri is not a big city by its population, and the personal ties and acquaintances are so important in every area of social interaction. That is why one's behavior and relationships are highly depend on his public reputation as well. For example, your business will work well if you personally and your family have a good reputation. Gyumri's people are also distinguished by a sense of dignity and a sense of honor. In local word, with tasip. A person with tasip is considered the one who does not give up in difficult situation and overcomes all the challenges, all difficulties with pride and dignity. The natural disaster and its consequences changed the citizens' quality of life. The ruins, abandoned area, and makeshift shelters where some part of the locals have to live more than 3 decades since now. Due to a high level of poverty, unemployment, the role of charity increased in the investment of the post-Soviet architecture and urban life. In some cases, this constant situation influences people's behavior. They have adopted a livelihood strategy of survival rather than development. The other characteristic feature, the last but not the least, is local dialect and special humor, which is a historically established way of communication among the local people. The city even has its own folk character, the joker Polos Mukuc. You can see him on the slide. As you can see, also the monument of this personage together with the humor text and local dialects expression on the city walls and anecdote wall, for example, are one of the popular places of nowadays touristic city. Thank you. Now, when we learned the key finding of research in city scale and image of local people, let's take a closer look at the park itself, and let's start from the language aspect. The word friendship in Armenian has its special understanding. The word doesn't only refer to friendship, but to their relatives and relation in sense of kinship, family as a clan. In the post-earthquake period, the understanding of friendship as it was understood in Soviet context, like friendship of people or дружба народов, was redefined in Gyumri Connect with friendship and humanitarian help from different countries and persons at the moment of the earthquake. Apart from the official names, the locals use non-formal toponyms, which tell us a lot about the history, landscape, and most of all, perception, memories, and emotion of the place. Here are some of the most popular toponyms. At first, it's the park of textile relates to the nearby textile factory and district by the same name. Youth Park, the park always was the favorite place for the third shift youth workers of the nearby factory, students and pupils. It's kind of historical toponyms. Toponyms cycle, park near Star Square, Aznavour Square. As you can see on the slide, on these images, square plane looks like a star or cycle. Nowadays, it's named after the city-honored artist. So Manushan Park, as it's located near Manushan Street in honor of Misak Manushan Forest, this toponyms reminds us of the former natural landscape of the place instead of the nowadays park and district. Formerly here was forest instead of this district. The park in front of Hotel Chirac. Chirac Hotel was in front of the park, and it was making the area together with the nearby cinema Aistan, the place of youth and mobility. The building was abandoned and destroyed after the earthquake and became an informal symbol of the ruined city. Soon, the new multifunctional center is going to be on the same place. And also, local people named this place our park. In this way, people living nearby and recalling that. So the history every city strongly connected with very personal memories. And for the elder generation who have personal memories connected with the park of Soviet peace and happy life period, is important the image of the former park by its detailed presentation. You can see on the slide one of the variant mental map of Soviet park, Friendship Park, and you can see that it's very detailed with fontaine, alleys, and so on. That is why they're speaking with tribal feelings about every preserved artifact of the park, being those the pieces of preserved old fence, the entrance columns, basement of the old fountains, and path leading to the areas where park attractions were located, ending with the mention of the nowadays location of the former park attraction. And even for some of our survey participants, the smell of acacias of the park is still a trigger of remaining childhood memories, very romantic memories. Also, the drinking fountain location has been pointed out in the mental map that you can see so before. There is nothing left today, but for Gyumri and for the Armenian culture as a whole, this is a rather traditional element of an urban environment. The other memory is connected with the preserved stage where they used to sing and dance. A separate page in the history of Gyumri is related to the music, and the Friendship Park was a good platform for a wide variety of initiatives. Here, one could watch only theatrical performances, but also join the Gyumri rock wave. You can see some photos from that period. For the next slide. For the post-earthquake generation, the place stopped to be associated with the park anymore. This site became like living area, like home. Many of our interlocutors have never been in the place. The others visited the area last time in the Soviet period. For some of them, it was a private yard and home, and they were born and grew up here for the last 30 years. As a result of the earthquake, lots of public spaces of the city and park area itself were built up with numerous makeshift shelters and permanent housings. Until last year, 20 families were still living on the territory of the park. It's also known that there was a school in the tents and modular houses in the park during 1988 and 1982. Before, there were several attempts to rethink the area by different kinds of initiatives, like the idea of earthquake memorization with the memorial complex and museum construction idea in 25, and the Earth initiative in the frame of Be a Friend project has been installed the benches and friendship tree with the birdhouses. The current perception on actual place is far from being friendly. It's described by the following expression like abandoned marginal place, living area for wild dogs, place full of construction garbage, dangerous and very criminal area. To finally move from past to future, we asked our interviewee to talk about the park they would like to see there. Most of them talked about the importance of preserving the links between the past and the future. It's very, very important line for Gyumri people itself, not only in mental images and meanings, but also in material and elements. On the slide, you can see some of the quotes, some quotes from locals. Our project team received all the ideas and suggestions. So if you don't see yours here, doesn't mean you will not be here. You will. Now let's get back to our project team and see what the park will become. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Now I will talk about the idea of the future park. The basic idea is laid in the park's name, Friendship Park. But after research, we decided to detailize and to develop this idea and to expand the vision of the park as the space which brings together opposite narratives. The idea will cover different levels. It means that the park will bring together traditions, old and contemporary, emotions, tragic emotions of the city past, and modern rethinking with view to the future. Generations, elderly with which is a bit conservative, and young, which is much more open to the new international way of thinking. Countries. This process was already started when other countries helped Gyumri after the Spitakas quake, and in our context, it means that these practices will be extended to the park territory too. Cities. It means that the park will help Gyumri reach the level of the other cities from the urban environment point of view. Initiatives. Park will be the place for realization of both local and international initiatives. Spaces. Park is a joint between old historical city center and new northern residential cluster of the city. Next slide, please. And now I'll tell you a bit about the city itself, and integration of the park on the city scale. The area of Gyumri is 54 square kilometers, and the buildings are mostly 3-7 floors high. There is an international airport in the south part of the city and railway station close to the city center. The different areas in Gyumri have non-equal development and absent linkage between them. The main historical part of the city is now located on the southwest part, and it stopped being geographically central after new residential areas were built after the earthquake in the north. Each district has its specific identity. This identity is based not only on special is based not only on special and infrastructural aspect, but also on the tradition of living as a close community in neighborhoods and authority of families as clans. The reputation of the neighborhoods directly correlate with the reputation of people and families who live there and own the place. The park is located between the city center and northern residential part directly on the main transport axis. It takes about 40 minutes walk and 10 minutes drive from city center and 15 minutes drive from city airport to get the park. Existing Gyumri recreational infrastructure is mostly concentrated in the city center. Within a radius of pedestrian access of the park, there are mostly residential buildings. But for the further evolution of the park, it's important to know that many different recreational objects are planned to be activated nearby. 3 of them are potentially green recreational public spaces. The first is planned as a smart park that will focus on progressive smart solution. Another one will be a local park near the ex-Shirak Hotel. And the third is the territory along the small stream. The evolution of the park will not only form a new public space, but also launch the evolution of neighbor spaces. Friendship Park will be the core of this new public space cluster, and the cluster is based on two intersected axes. The vertical one connects the old and new city parts and form a main recreational path through the whole city for tourist and weekend local activities. And the horizontal one connects residential areas and their everyday use infrastructure. Friendship Park will combine both functions of access, local public space by type of a courtyard and city-scale destination point. The surroundings of the territory impose special requirements for the use and future programming of the park. On the northern side of the park, the park is surrounded mostly by residential buildings. East part is adjacent to industrial territories, and western side, and on the western side there is future Chirac Mall, ex Chirac Hotel. In the south, there are a new children's hospital. The local electric transformer substation is located on the corner of the park, and along the northern border, there is a gas pipe. Considering all this, we suggest that western part remains more silent zone without any active recreation, and eastern part oppositely can have a very active program. The territory itself covered by wild greenery. What is left from the original park is the columns of the entrance that you can see on the slide, the almost ruined scene, and 60 trees. Other infrastructure objects and greenery were destroyed during and after Spitak earthquake. And on the slide, you can see the view of the surroundings. On the first one, you can see future Chirac Mall, and second one, you can see these residential blocks near the park, and on the last one, co-living building of the factory and the territory of the hospital. Next slide, please. And the vision of special organization of the park is based on the territory's role and its surrounding. The park will combine function of city-scale recreation destination and local courtyard characteristics. Loud activity will be located closer to the industrial surroundings so that they do not disturb residential and hospital territories. Those loud zones are the attraction park, active sports and play zones, and space for social events, including the news scene. Everyday recreation facilities will be near the residential building on the north part of the park. Those are children's playground, workout zone, community garden, etc. In the hospital's silent zone, there will be quiet rest infrastructure as promenades by a pond and inner gardens, sun-protected benches, etc. Also, the pavilions for workshops for local masters and the co-working will be located nearby this silent zone. Besides those, there will be some more pavilions located in the park. They will be made for recreational, educational, and operational needs. Entrances to the park will be located on the main ways of pedestrian flows, and service entrance will be located near the Luna Park and service building. The special organization provides fast access for everyday users and balanced distribution of different user groups, and also it's throughout in terms of effective maintenance. And now I will give the floor to our public programming expert, Elena.
Thank you, Ksenia. Good evening, everyone. So in a few following slides, I will explain the sociocultural background in the city and our future proposal. As for the current agenda, we have analyzed the programs and the events in the city and have discovered several tendencies and imbalances. Those are, of course, very crucial for our future programming, and so that we're not just creating an alienated program, but are including the program inside the existing one in the city. So here, as you can see on the left part of the slide with the map, there is a very evident imbalance of the used areas in the city, and it is marked with a red circle. So this is the center where the public spaces are used quite frequently for the sociocultural events. And the blue circles correspond for the occasionally used areas. Also on the map, we can see the amount of significant operators that are as well concentrated in the city center. But on the north, where our park is situated, we have a very huge potential of collaborating with the educational institutions that are situated there. As for the event matrix, which is on the right side of the slide, here we can see the very evident imbalance of the amount of the events, season-wise. So the calendar is not fully covered, and the autumn is the most active time of the year. Also on the vertical axis, we can see the diversity of the user groups in the current proposal, and actually there are no niche edutainment formats to build a strong community, as well as there are no regular significant events that are engaging the whole city and can boost tourism. Moreover, the programming strategy is based on the analysis of the existing one, on the analysis of existing and missing formats, and of course on the audiences engaged. And also with the help of our anthropology team, we very carefully took into account the user requests. So the variety of the contexts and scales to be covered provides a great opportunity for the global programming and vision. So here on the left side of the slide, you can see that our future programming comprises different scales, which grow from a smaller park scale into a larger city scale, then regional, national, and international scales. This notion adds to the programming and again replicates this friendship illusion. And we are placing different layers of the context in order to establish the global vector. As for the user groups involved, we are hoping to engage with the mentioned groups, which were also discovered by our anthropology team. It is crucial to mention that we have discovered that there is a tendency of building relations based on the territory aspect in the city. But we hope that this could be explained due to the fact that sociocultural proposal is not very saturated yet for building such relations. So as for the user groups, as for the families and kids, there is actually not big proposal in a city targeted to the kids. So we are hoping to boost this particular part. And of course, there is a very important group, or actually two groups, the youngsters and teenagers and third age. We will work with them together very closely. Moreover, we're going to work with the residents and occasional visitors, such as hospital and mall shoppers, hospital users and mall shoppers. Without a doubt, with the rare but significant events, we will boost the tourists to visit our park and the city itself. And also here, this is very crucial for us to mention that we are going to concentrate a lot on the special needs programs by adapting some of our future programs specifically for them, or creating universal events suitable for everyone. So as for the additional formats that are below, with regards to anthropological research, we would love to involve more edutainment events that connects education and entertainment elements and involve all the users mentioned above. As for the arts, as already been mentioned, Gyumri is an open-air museum city. Thus, of course, there is a great potential to develop art-oriented programs. As well, we suggest to include the city quests and the excursions, where the park will be the starting point for such initiatives. And we hope to develop sport events, remembering that Gyumri is also famous for its Olympic residence. Based on the anthropological research again, and on the global idea of the park development, we are establishing the metaphor for our programming, which sounds as vernacular and asymmetrical similarities. So to explain it, the vectors here are formed by two polar topics. So the first one is going to be fixed, and the second one could be changed throughout the years of the park life. So the first vector, the arts. The city is an open-air museum, as already mentioned, and it is also famous for its craft history and its current art initiatives. So the vector here combines the local peculiarity with the contemporary art in order to actualize the context and to map and connect most of the current artists of Gyumri on the national art map. The second vector, music. We know that Gyumri is known for its contribution into the Armenian folk music, and as well as it is famous for its contemporary music bands and the rock wave, as Marina mentioned. So we would love to unite traditionality and contemporaneity by bringing back the chamber concerts and jazz evenings. As for the theater and history of the city vector, we suggest to involve this vector due to the fact that we now discovered that theater is something that people of Gyumri are enjoying very much, and we would love to play with it and involve it into our programming, but with the teens activation. So we want to engage teenagers and youngsters, work with them in teen clubs, discussions and sections. And in the end of the program, there will be a teens theatrical festival. So this also will be combined with the modern technologies as well, because we know that the city is very known, famous for its technologies. And the fourth vector, last but not least, it comprises the sporting activities and the dialogue between generations. Here we also develop the inclusive programs and the gardening activities. And the temporary vector mentioned on the bottom of the slide is professional program. We believe that on the first stages of park development, it is really needed to create an additional professional platform that could be targeted to the locals and could provide the applied disciplines such as landscaping and park management. And here you can see the new event matrix. It is quite transparent and provides various of the formats by intersecting the vectors and the context or scales that we were discussing before. So every vector contains one blockbuster event that culminates the year programming of the vector and engage all the user groups. Here, it is very important to mention that we are playing with the scale, so the bigger the context, the bigger the event is. In the first vector, the program, the art vector, the program starts with educational lectures, kids sections, and art interventions for different groups in the park itself. Then it grows into the city context with the performances, exhibitions, and screenings, where we're collaborating with the city institutions. As for the regional context, we would love to engage regional artists into the context with the art residencies. As for the national context, we would love to develop the art events in the transport hubs. As for the blockbuster art festival event, it is significant. It is a significant big event, which we believe could work very well after the, for example, Biennale experience in Gyumri. As for the music vector, we start with the chamber concerts, sound art courses and sections. Then it grows into the concerts, immersive plays and music excursions in the city. Then it grows into the regular concerts of Chirac's musicians. And finally, it culminates with the blockbuster annual music festival involving the local and the national musicians. Vector 3 start with the teens clubs and the teens projects that are reactualizing Gyumri history. They're going to have some theatrical practices as well. Then it grows into teens exhibitions or interventions, and then it culminates with the blockbuster Teens Theatrical Festival. And the Vector 4 starts with the events uniting teens, third age, and special needs users. Here we develop sports, inclusive activations, and community garden activities. And then it grows and culminates into the blockbuster event, which is lifestyle festival and sports competitions. And here I give the floor to Ksenia again in order to provide visual references of the future park.
Thank you. And the visual appearance of the park will combine natural character of modern and modern forms. That will give some space to implement architectural solutions that will reveal the identity of this space. And the landscape of the park will be done mostly of natural local materials and colors. Also, we are planning to use mostly local trees and plants for greenery. On this slide, you can see several references from different parks that can translate the visual appearance. Next, thank you. And now, when you already understand the context, let's go back to competition details. As I said at the beginning, the competition has 3 nominations. Participants shall submit proposals for all 3 nominations, and the winner will be chosen in each nomination separately. The first nomination is the Best Park Bench Design. It is a typical bench which will be distributed through the whole park territory. The second nomination is Best Marketplace Pavilion Design. It's a modular construction which has to combine with other ones in different ways depending on the situation and can be used for different needs like fairs, exhibitions, etc. And the third nomination is Best Gardening School Pavilion Design. This pavilion will be a single copy. The nominations were chosen based on the idea that the result shall be very noticeable. Benches will be almost on each step. The marketplace is very active using space, and the gardening school will be one of the most important space for the local community. Also, in our opinion, this object will give the participants the opportunity to work and play with different skills and ideas without being limited with construction cost, engineering, or any other time-consuming aspects. Also, I would like to remind that citizens have an alternative way to participate in park design process. We have plans to organize several design sessions together with locals to find the best solution for other key objects, so that the future users can participate and design the space with our professional supervision. That's all. Thank you very much for attention. And now we have 15 minutes to answer your questions. Please write them to our chat. And I will start with the questions we already have. And first of them is what ancient elements and materials remains of Gyumri exist within the current Friendship Park area? Are historic maps available online? Thank you for this question. I would say the only object we can save are the columns of the entrance group and some trees in the park. All other physical objects are not in condition to be reused, but we are planning to bring back and save in some terms the non-physical identity features of the place, like dancing, movies, smells of trees, etc., etc. Another question is who can enter the competition? Anyone who is willing to do it. The qualification will be mostly based on finding people with the right approach to the topic. In the first round, each participant should fill in the application form, including the questionnaire and a video presenting information about the participant, his or her experience in architecture and design. We have some specific requests and questions on the sociocultural programming. Is it possible to address them to you? I think my colleague Elena will answer.
Yeah, I can answer. Thanks, Ksenia. Yes, sure. Please direct your questions and requests to the mentioned address. And we, of course, will work on with these questions and we'll be happy to answer. And moreover, we're going to have some participatory sessions with the people of Gyumri and in the near future to discuss the programming, but we're going to announce it a little bit later. So hopefully it's going to be a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Great. Another interesting question. I didn't participate in your anthropological survey, but I have opinion and memories to share. What should I do? I think I can answer a bit, and maybe Marina will add something. Please send us a letter or call the number you see below, and we would love to hear it and take it into account in our further work. What will be free in the park to use? The park will be designed considering the requests and needs of users. Of course, there will be some paid functions like cafes, attractions, etc. But all the everyday infrastructure like sport and children playgrounds, including space for people with special needs, some local activities like small concerts or exhibition and so on. And recreational areas and a lot more will be free for everybody. I'm a local artist and I want to work and I want my works to be in the park. What should I do? We are very much interested in exhibiting and locating local arts in the park. And we are looking for artists who work with wood and stone, furniture makers, sculptors, and painters. Please contact us via email and let's work together. Also, there will be a vernissage zone where any artist can rent. We are working on the logistic and of that, but it will be very approachable and will be able to present or sell his artwork. Another question is in Russian. Will I'm not sure if I should translate it or not. Will the global concept of the park will judge by the whole project, or the winners will be chosen in each nomination? And you don't need to design the whole park. You will receive the details in the brief, but we are waiting that participant of competition will design these objects of nominations, and each nomination will be judged separately. So each nomination will have its own winner. I will remind that we are still waiting for your questions, and if you have any of them, you can write them to the chat, or if you are not ready now, you can send it via email to us and we will answer.
And here's one question already from Gaene. Is the park privatized now, or is it on the balance of the city?
The park is not on the balance on the city now, but the future operational model of it and its owner, it's part of the work. It will be this like organization structure will be part of our work, and later we will know how it will work and who will own it and how it will be organized. Other drawings of reference available online. The webinar will be saved so you can rewatch it. And if you are a participant of the competition, you will receive some reference in your brief. Another question, is there only 3 nominations, or we have a nomination for the complex concept of the park? We have only 3 nominations because the whole concept will be a part of a complex project of park evolution. So the base vectors will be inside this project, and your ideas for 3 nominations will be inside this global idea. But if you want to participate in other cases, you can contact us, and we are open for any collaborations so we can discuss it. And I will go back to the question about privatization. And add some answer. The park now is given to idea to fund idea for operation. It's now privatized, and idea has taken for construction right and operations. Another question: are there any amount for the young planners who does not have experience in work with big spaces yet? I think if you are an architect but you have but you do not have specific experience, you can participate because you do not need some very specific knowledge or experience to do your application and your design concepts for these free nominations.
And here I can see another question from Camille. Has a budget been defined for the elements and the architecture?
Thank you, Lena. As I said, the idea for these nominations was that you haven't a big like a frame from budget point of view, but we work on this and we will give you some like anchor points from this point of view, but it's not what we want you to think about. We more want you to be like free in this concept, architectural thinking, and so on.
Ksyusha, there is another question from Maria Reshko. She asks, so on the first stage of the application, you need to pick the nomination. So what is the proportion of the participants in free nominations if they're going to participate only 20 teams?
Thank you very much for the question. Actually, you don't need to choose. The idea is that we have free nominations, but all participants have to design all free nominations. These details will be in the brief, but the winner will be separate in which nomination. So you designing all three parts, but you can win in one of them or in two of them or something like this, or even in all three of them.
So I think there are no new questions, or thank you.
Yeah, if we have no more questions, we can
just thank all the participants
yeah.
to be with us today. So there is another question left, I can see. So Tigran asks whether he understands correctly whether the participants do not develop the general plan, but just creating and developing separate elements of the park. And the answer is yes.
Yes.
You do not develop the whole park, but you develop
just these three objects.
Yep.
And now I think it's time to stop because it's already 5 o'clock here in Moscow. Yeah. So thank you very much for the attention and for your questions. But still, if you wanna ask something, you can contact us via mail or via phone, and we will answer. So
thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye, and hope to see your letters on our email.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.